It's our privilege, really, to talk about a film called Fight Like a Girl. Now, there are issues around sexual violence, which is a key theme, if you like, in this film, and that's over the next 20 minutes or so. Just so I can warn you, it's set in the Democratic Republic of Congo. And it's about the power of boxing to change and heal lives. Fight Like a Girl is based on the true story of the female Congolese boxer Clark Ntambwe. She was kidnapped as a young woman and escaped absolute horrors before meeting her coach, a boxing champion and former child soldier, Balazi Bagunda. The film follows her journey to boxing success against the backdrop of a country ravaged by war, and sexual violence was a big part of that war. And we've got the star of it, the South African actor Qamata, who plays the main character. And my goodness, it's a fantastic performance, if you don't mind me saying so. Listen, I'll come to you shortly. I just want to talk as well to the film's director, Matthew Leutwyler. Matthew, thanks. Amazing story. Tell us how you came across it in the first place.
Hi. Thanks for having us here. First off, I have an NGO that's been active in the area for the last 13 years called We Are Limitless, and through that, I spent a lot of time in Congo and Rwanda, and I saw some photos on Instagram of this women's boxing team, and it just, I don't know, something about the images just made me want to learn more. And so through some friends of mine, I found out how to reach Kibamongo, the coach. It's his nickname, Kibamongo, and then after about 6 months of just trying to get a hold of him, and I got him a bus ticket, and he came out to, I have a restaurant actually in Kigali in Rwanda, and he came out there, and we hung out, and he brought a bunch of photos of his life and started telling me about how he was a child soldier and was part of a coup that overthrew the government in the 90s in Congo, and then turned his life around and became a professional boxer, middleweight champ of Congo, and then decided to start boxing clubs for ex-child soldiers, and then later an all-women's boxing club, not really to find the next great boxing champ, female boxing champ, but to use it as therapy for women who had experienced sexual violence in the area, to kind of help them find their independence and get their confidence back again. So that's how it all kind of started.
Amma, how do you go about researching this, where you have to, I would have thought, look into places you don't really want to look in terms of the sexual violence perpetrated against women, but I assume to play the character you need to develop an understanding and an empathy with them.
Yeah. I think in terms of preparation, the hardest thing for me was definitely learning how to box. I'd never thrown a punch in my life before, going into this film, and also learning the language. But in terms of sexual violence, coming from South Africa, which is has the biggest gender-based violence statistics in the world. So it's something that I'm very familiar with, and I know about it, and, it's not that far off, or something that I really have to, dig far or look too far to find inspiration or to understand, the trauma and what it does to women.
Mm-hmm. And Matthew, it spares us nothing in terms of the horror of sexual violence, but also it's brilliantly done. It just gets across the grinding poverty, being barefoot, living on the streets. How did you film that, Matthew? It didn't look like a film set to me, put it like that.
Well, it was not. We actually shot all the locations are the real locations that these girls experienced. The gym is the real gym. The streets out in front of the gym where all the street kids live, those are the real street kids. We've been actually doing a documentary for the last 6 years about the same subject. It's a little broader. It deals with all of the women, and we find out a lot more about Kibamango's real backstory. So we decided to use those real locations and use as many of the real people as possible. Most of the supporting cast is non-actors playing versions of themselves. The street kids, like I said, are all the real street kids. It was difficult shooting those scenes because keeping them sober for those moments that we were shooting, it was impossible. Actually, they were all pretty strung out. And so the scenes where the little habitats they build on the side of the road to sleep in for protection from the rain and stuff, those are all real ones. And I had to climb inside one. I still haven't told you a story about that. I'll tell you later. There was a rat that ran through there right before she climbed in, and I'd never told her. But yeah, it was. But that was a big part of it when I was talking to my producing partner at the very beginning, Anton. He and I were like, this is such an important part of this story is where they live. There was some conflict that was happening. The UN had been attacked right before we started shooting, and there was some. We were thinking about moving the production to Uganda. And then we decided a lot of the girls that were going to be in supporting roles would no longer be able to be those characters. And moving it from Goma, it just seemed like there was such a big character in the movie. So we kind of, we just upped the budget on security and decided to stick with shooting it in Goma, which I'm really happy we did because it's not only authentic, there's a beauty to that place that I don't think you can replicate anywhere else. And that was another thing that we tried to do with the movie. I think we were pretty successful. It's not some poverty-driven film. There's love and happiness and kindness that are found in these places that I think a lot of people don't realize. Humanity and humans. Not only survive in places like that, they often thrive. They find a way, and that to me is what's so inspirational about their story.
Now you've learnt, your character learned how to throw a hell of a punch in her younger days, and then you're living in poverty on the street, selling these little fishes for a living for a nice old guy, but then. You get approached by the coach, and here is a clip of that moment when Balezi Kimobanga Bagunda first approaches Safi as she's sitting on the street there.
Don't worry, I'm not the police. I'm Balezi Bagunda. Do you know who I am?
The boxer? My father told me about you.
And he's the one who taught you how to fight.
Only when I have to.
And I hear you are very good at doing that. You want to come to my gym?
Why?
I train women to box. I have a team.
A team? Of women boxers?
Yes. I think it will be good. Maybe you will join the team. Or maybe not. But I think you should still come down, meet some of the girls. I will teach you some techniques. It's up to you. But that right hand will only get you so far.
And which leads me to ask you, Amma, what have you learnt about boxing? Because I suppose if you're not into the sport, you think you got one big punch, that'll do you. But it is so technical. How long did it take you to get your head round it, as well as the physical exertion of it?
Well, when we were preparing, when I was preparing for the role, I had to train like 4 hours a day. So that was like 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the evening, 6 days a week. Because we had, I think, a month before we started shooting to kind of get the punch right. And listen, I think I tried as best as I could to obviously make the punches look good and, go on the whole Creed vibe. But I think what was also just very important about the story is that she is a woman who knows how to fight. She's not necessarily a professional boxer, so I didn't want to put too much pressure on myself in terms of that. But boxing is a great sport. I mean, I don't think I looked better in my life than I did when we were shooting that film. Like, I think it just worked out for me for vanity reasons. But it was fun. It was difficult. But I think just the community, seeing how the women are passionate about it and how brilliant they are. I was so inspired by Clark. I mean, she's just one of the most phenomenal people I've ever met. And she just does it so effortlessly. And yeah, it was a great experience for me.
And this was her story.
Yeah.
But she herself has a part in the film as the another boxer in the gym, which is, I mean, it's useful to have her around to make it.
Exactly. Yeah. And she's the sweetest person ever. I mean, I remember when I first met her, she just ran to me and gave me the biggest hug, and she was very supportive. Throughout the entire journey, especially with my boxing, because I was very not confident with, throwing my punches. I was really trying to get it right. And I think she gave me a lot of great tips about just, not putting too much pressure on myself. So we would train together, and we really honestly just grew such a beautiful friendship.
Mm-hmm. Let's have another clip. There's this, the undercurrent throughout the film. It's about redemption, recovery from trauma, strength, and resilience. To which I thought this scene speaks well. This is you as Safi telling Balazi, you're ambitious. You've won one very minor fight, and you want nothing less than take part in the African Boxing Championships. Let's have a listen to this exchange.
I want to fight this year.
In 7 weeks, you've had one village fight.
And I knocked her out.
You knocked out a village girl who was beating you until you got in a good punch. You want to be a boxer? Then you must not talk so much. You must first listen.
I have been listening.
The fool speaks, the wise man. Woman listens. We are all damaged here, but we can heal. We will never be whole, but we can heal. But at some point, you must participate in your own rescue.
Wow.
Which was, sort of powerfully done. I mean, we should play tribute to that actor. As the quiet power he's got is incredible, Matthew.
Hakeem.
Actually, could you just give me his name, Matthew?
Yeah, Hakeem Kakazim. His voice is fantastic, isn't it? But lovely guy, easy to work with, he's a big part of the reason why the movie works.
I suppose in a boxing redemption movie, it's very difficult to sort of to stray from the standard narrative arc of it. It's somebody with a difficult childhood who can box a bit and then finds redemption and gets beaten and then wins a fight. But you just have to embrace that. There's no way around that, is there?
I mean, there are certain tropes in a boxing story, it seems. Most of this is really what happened in her life, though. So it wasn't that hard for me to just kind of follow along. There, obviously, we took some liberty with certain things, and I combined some other women's stories into hers, into Clark's, and that's why the character's name is Safi and not Clark. But yeah, for the most part, we just followed the real story, and even the ending, which I don't want to give away. That's what happened. And it's crazy it was actually at the Congolese Championships, and we shot it for the documentary, and it was crazy. The women and the men, it's just this tournament goes on for I think 3 days, and they have multiple fights in the same day, and there was no place for the fighters to go sit, so they would just lay in the hallways. And then they would get a call that, in 2 hours, your next fight's coming up, and they would have to get up and fight again. It was wild. So that kind of, you kind of see that a bit in our film. We didn't get into the details of that, but you can see how there's multiple fights in the same day, and then they just kind of move through the tournament over the course of a couple of days. insane, frankly.
I mean, there's no getting away from the heart of it is the weaponization of rape in war in the Democratic Republic of Congo. It's been well documented. There's a study in 2011 found 48 women were raped every hour. I mean, it's just appalling. I mean, there's a great exchange here. Again, you're in it, Amma, as Safi, talking to Safi's friend
Layla,
Layla, and her young child, who was conceived by rape, is there.
But this little one will be a good man. I'll teach him to be a man who doesn't hurt women. Because my son, you will not know about him. I will tell him his father was a great man. A man who died trying to defend his family. He will not be like them. Because that night defines who they are, not who we are.
I mean, that left me somewhat speechless. I'm not sure I know what to say about it now. Well, go on,
yeah,
Matthew.
let me speak to that. I actually, I think that's the first take of that scene. I remember sitting, watching it, and I don't know if you remember this, but I cried in that scene. That dialogue, I have to admit, I didn't write it. That is almost verbatim an interview that I had done with one of our... from another young woman from many years earlier, actually, and it just stuck with me how she explained how it defined them and not her, and so when I was writing the scene, it really is the words from this other young woman's mouth that I repurposed here in this scene. But yeah, it's very moving. I'll never forget actually interviewing the young lady whose story that really was. But Bahali, the actress, Rwandan actress, I think she just crushed that scene. It was devastating.
What are your feelings on it?
I mean, I think it was a very important piece for the movie, and I think it encapsulates like what the story is about. I think even with Safi's journey, her not being defined by her circumstances, but really allowing, herself to heal and allowing, to use something that was meant to really just crush her and, to empower herself. So I thought it was a very beautiful and touching scene when we did it. And I agree with Matt. I think Bahali did an amazing job in that scene. It was such a pleasure working with her.
And how do you suppose it's going to go down being shown in Africa? What are your thoughts on that, Amma?
I mean, my hopes, for this movie is that I hope that African women can look at this and feel proud and feel empowered. I think it's very important to see us represented in screen, in movies, and for our stories to be told. And what I like about what Matt said is that, yes, this movie is, we do focus on the abuse of women and what happens to women, but also importantly as well is the fact that these are people, they have lives, and in all of the turmoil that is happening in the country and in their circumstances, they're still able to find love and friendship and connection. And I think that was a very beautiful, part of the movie. So I hope that women, all over the world, not just Africa. And I think even in the festivals that we've done around the world, we've received just such beautiful feedback from a lot of women who just feel so touched by the story and feel that it represents them in some way as well. And
the hero of the film, I suppose, is Balazi Kimobanga Bagunda, and there's a horrifying postscript to this, Matthew, in his story.
Kibamango. Just want to be clear on the pronunciation. Kibamango, yeah. He was, we became friends over the course of the documentary over these last 6 years or so, and he helped me out a lot with the charity. We have a small orphanage in right outside of Goma, and in 2025, January, so about 16 months ago, the M23 rebel group was moving into the territory, and our village, where our orphanage has been attacked, and our 40 kids and their house mother had to flee, and one of them had been shot. So I was in Rwanda at the time, and I drove across the border with one of Kibamango's boxing students, a young man named Jerry, and we met with Kibamango. Kibo had already figured out where the kids had fled to. We got to them, hadn't been fed in a couple days. Fed them, and it's a long story, and I don't want to get into too much of it here, but it was suffice to say we couldn't, once got across the border, we got stuck, and the border closed, and M23 got into the city, and we were just driving around in a caravan of vans trying to find a place to put these kids safely, and every time we'd turn a corner, there was another battle happening. It was pretty terrifying, and we finally got our kids situated, and the one child who had been shot, we dropped him at a clinic for the night, assuming we would get up in the morning and get across the border. The next morning, Kibamango met me with his car to go pick up our student, Musa, who was in the hospital. And unfortunately, firefights started breaking out on the street, and so he ran one way and I ran the other back to the hotel I was staying in for the night, and he said he'd call me in 15 minutes and come get me, and we would go get Musa. And then about 15 minutes later, I actually got a WhatsApp message from a mutual friend on the streets with a picture of his dead body. He had been shot only minutes after the last time I saw him, and so he passed. And then I was stuck in DRC for the next 5 days, and I did eventually get Musa and got out of the country.
Well, what can we say? We salute him. I'm so sorry. I've just got the wrong name written down in front
That's all right.
of me. This is Balezi Kibamango.
Yes,
Bagunda, and we salute him. Well, we salute your efforts as well in making the film. It's quite brilliant. Fight Like a Girl. Thanks very much to the film's director, Matthew.
Oh, one quick thing. Quick thing. The Genesis Theater on Friday at 6 p.m. We have our first screening here, and Amma and I will be there afterwards for a Q&A. So if anybody wants to come to that screening in particular, it rolls out to more theaters next week and the following weeks. But this Friday, we will both be there at the end for a Q&A if anybody wants to come.
Thank you very much indeed. That's the director, Matthew Leutwyler, and the actor Amma Qamata, who stars in the film as Safi. My word, she's wonderful.